car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
And we are pleased to have the owner of that establishment, what we call low overhead country, better known as Frontier Motors, here in the studio, ready, willing, and certainly more than able to take any phone inquiries from you. For instance, if you would like to get the price of a car or a truck or an SUV that you're thinking of buying or selling or trading in, this is the place. Give us a call, 478-3116, 478-3116, and I will connect you with Iven Streckel, who is the owner of Frontier Motors and the host of this show, which is Talk at 10 on News Talk 1370 WCOA. Good morning, Iven.
Hey, Don, thanks for the introduction. And this is, again, a double format, which means we are on the radio, like Don said, live on 1370 AM. We are also videotaping this for our Blab TV customers on cable and satellite. So if you're watching this on TV, you really don't have to bother calling into the radio show. This is more for people that are listening to us on the radio. Now, you'll see on the bottom of the screen, if you're watching this on TV, there's a dealership phone number, and it's a toll-free number. And if you have any questions about what you should be paying for a car, Frontier Motors is the go-to dealership for free advice. And that's one of the reasons that we started this show on 1370 almost 20 years ago, is to let people in the Pensacola area know that there's a car dealership that's not just about selling cars. Obviously, we do sell cars, but what we try to do is make sure that when you are in the market, which you never know, if you're going to be forced in the market, a couple things can happen. I have lots of customers coming in on a daily basis at Frontier Motors saying they didn't think they were going to be in the market, but their car just threw a rod and the motor shot, and they didn't replace that car, and they were hoping it'd last for another 2 or 3 years, and it didn't. Or perhaps you got into a major accident and the insurance company is going to be totaling your car. That would also put you into the market sooner than you wanted to be. And one of the things that we always do at Frontier Motors is we give you the straight scoop on what you should pay for a car, whether we have that car in inventory or whether it's at another dealer's lot or perhaps it's at a private individual's place, or maybe it's on the lemon lot at the Navy base. But either way, it doesn't really matter who owns the car. Why you call Frontier Motors is a couple of reasons. Number one, we will run the free history report on that car, which is including a Carfax and an auto check. I don't know if you've Googled Carfax lately. If you haven't, it's $45 to run a Carfax plus tax. So it's almost $48 to run a Carfax report these days. That's quite expensive, a ripoff if you ask me, but there's nothing you can do about it. I subscribe to Carfax, even though I feel they charge way too much, but it's a necessity these days. They do great advertising, and everybody knows that you got to ask for the Carfax before you buy a car. Now, we print the Carfaxes off on every single car that we buy, and we put them in the glove box. We also subscribe to a history report provider called AutoCheck, which is the second largest history provider in the nation. And we subscribe to both because we want to make sure that the information matches. Every once in a while, you get conflicting information. So we run both of them for you and put them in a glove box. But we can run this information for you. Let's say that your neighbor is selling their car. So in my program called Dealer Socket, AAX, I plug in the ID number, the 17-digit ID number, and I plug in the miles and the equipment. It'll pull up the Carfax, the auto check. It'll also let me book the vehicle out using a couple of different books. And these books are a little bit different than what you would get on the internet. On the internet, you're going to get a Kelley Blue Book, and you're going to get an Edmunds, and you're going to get a consumer's version of the NEDA. Now, in our area, we don't use either one of these books. What we do is we use a black book, which is a wholesale guidebook. Looks a bit similar like the one I'm holding up right now. Now, I actually don't use the book anymore. This book I'm holding up is from 2014. That's the last one that I ordered because it's all on my phone. It's all on the internet right now. So the black wholesale guidebooks are not books anymore, but I still keep one around for nostalgic purposes. We also use an NEDA guidebook. Now, this guidebook is not available to the average Joe Blow. You've got to be an insurance company, a banker, or a credit union or a bank to get one of these books, or a car dealership. we can share these values with you. The other book that we use, which is not really a book, is the data compiled by Manheim Market. Manheim is the largest auction chain in the world. We are lucky enough to have a Manheim auction right here on W Street. And when on Tuesday the auction runs, they're going to sell between 600 and 800 cars in Pensacola. And that information gets compiled in a Manheim Market report. So that if they're selling a 2016 Toyota Tacoma and it has 6,000 miles on it, immediately the information of what it's sold for is going to be logged in my market report. Now, if I know what a Toyota dealership or a new car dealership is paying for a particular car, it certainly helps me to make sure that the books that the bankers use in our area, which again is the Black Wholesale Guidebook and the NADA, are correct or not. Let's say a banker books out a vehicle for $25,000, but they're running through the auction for $20,000. That means the book is too high because a dealer, try as they might, do not get away with making $5,000 on a car. And that's because it's way too competitive out there. In our area alone, there are 88 car dealerships just in the Pensacola area. They all stock cars. Now, they don't all have 383 cars in inventory with another 20 coming in. So we have over 400 cars in inventory at Frontier Motors. But some of the big guys like the Sandy Sansing Group, the Pete Mowers, they have, when you look at all their lots together, they've got a lot of cars. And indirectly, they're really our competition. It's not so much the other used car dealerships. Our competition are people in our area, dealerships in our area that are selling new cars. And what we try to do is we try to go head to head with them by selling you a car that might be 6 months old, maybe maybe a year old, with very low miles on it. An example would be the Tacoma I was just referencing. We have this in inventory. It has 185 miles on it. So obviously, if you're going to buy a brand new Tacoma, you'd go up to Bob Tyler, check out a brand new 17. I don't think they've got a lot of 16s left over, but they're going to have a brand new 17. So you get an out-the-door figure. If you've got a trade-in, you ask them for an out-the-door price, and then you compare what I can do with one with 246 miles on it. And of course, if my price difference is only a couple of $1,000s, the first thing I would tell you is go buy a brand new one. But what if it's $5,000 or $6,000 less? I have an article that I brought with me from Consumers Reports in April's edition on page 21. Consumers Reports finally put in writing what I've been talking about for 20 years. They said after 1 year, the average new car depreciates 27%, which equates to $9,180, but we can round it off at $9,200. So the average first-year depreciation, according to Consumers Reports, not Frontier Motors, is $9,200. Now, even if I mark that car up $2,000 or $3,000, you could still save somewhere between $6,200 and $7,200, and I'd still be making a couple of $1,000s on that car. And to me, that's quite a bit of money for 1 year depreciation. Some of the cars that we have in inventory, and I talk about the car that I drove on the lot, which would be the 2016 Jaguar F-Type with 2,000 miles on, which has a window sticker of $93,000, and we can sell it for $70,000. Folks, that's a $23,000 depreciation in 1 year. We have a Tesla with 12,000 miles. That's $106,000 that we're selling for $63,000. Now, can you imagine the poor sucker that bought that car brand new? And they don't deal on Teslas. You actually go into a Tesla outlet. They don't even have dealerships. They have outlets. I know I was in Miami a couple of years ago, and I went to the Tesla outlet. It was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. They have one car on the showroom, and then they have all these huge TV screens that are touch screens, and you just order the color you want, and you order the equipment that you want. They tell you the final price. There's no negotiating. And you click order. You put in your credit card, you put in your deposit, $1,000 deposit, right, and then the car magically appears, and 60 or 90 days later, you end up with your car. And I think they even bring it to your doorstep. You don't even have to go pick it up. They bring it right to you. But it was $106,000. Somebody drove it 12,000 miles, and I can sell it for $63,000. And folks, that's why this show is here, to tell you that if you know anybody that's going to buy a brand new car, before they sign, before they give money, you tell them to stop in Frontier Motors and get some free advice.
The show is also here to take your phone calls. Would you like to ask Iven Streckel with Frontier Motors a question? Simple as it can be. 478-3116. 478-3116. The dealership located at 230 Beverly Parkway, just over Highway 29, where Brent Lane turns into Beverly Parkway, down the road a bit on the right-hand side, or call us here at News Talk 1370 WCOA. This is the Frontier Motors Show. We would be happy to hear from you. Again, that number, 478-3116. I
got to give my hats off to Walmart. They're always coming up with some new, I was almost going to say garbage, but this is not garbage. My Automotive News got an article on the front page that says, Walmart Supercenters will sell cars. So Walmart is going to go into the car business. They tried used cars a while back, maybe in Costco. I'm not sure. That didn't work out. But Walmart stores, the nation's largest retailer, is jumping into car sales through partnerships with dealers groups, including AutoNation, which is the nation's largest new car retailer. So basically what happens at the checkout line of Walmart, they're going to have these kiosks, and you can pretty much order a brand new car on the kiosk, what you're looking for. And I don't know how this is going to work. And they're going to give that information to the nearest dealer that's subscribing with Walmart. And I guess it's going to be a one price type of selling. So I don't think it's going to be any less than you could get at a dealership, but they're going to try to take that dealership equation out of it, because we always talk about how customers hate the car buying experience. So this might be a good thing, not a bad thing, if you're buying a brand new car, that you're able to buy that car basically online, and then you go to the nearest dealership to pick the car up. Of course, they're going to provide you with a price. I don't know how they're going to work trade-ins yet. How is that going to happen? They don't have anybody there that can appraise a trade-in, so that might be a little touchy. And from my experience, almost 70% of the cars that we sell, we have a trade-in that we have to take in, because most people, number one, they don't want to go through the hassle of selling their car themselves. And number two, sometimes they're surprised that even if they're thinking they're going to sell their car themselves, they end up selling it to the dealership. There is a tax advantage if you trade a car in at a dealership. And folks, if you don't know how that works, let me give you a very simple example. If you have a $20,000 trade-in, and you're buying a $20,000 car, your balance, of course, is zero. So in the state of Florida, they give you a tax credit for your trade-in, which means you pay no taxes. If you're buying a $20,000 car without a trade-in, you're going to be spending around $1,500 or $1,600 in state and federal taxes on that transaction. And that's why sometimes I can talk a customer into trading their car in if the car has value, because you're going to save the difference. Obviously, I'm going to give you a little less than retail because I've got to sell it for retail, but I can get away with giving you a little less because you're going to save all that money in taxes. Now, one of the things that we do a little bit different at Frontier Motors than most dealerships, that let's say you've decided to buy a brand new car, and no matter what I tell you, no matter how much money I can save you, you say, Ivan, I don't care. I just won the lottery and I'm going to not worry about depreciation. I've decided I'm going to buy brand new. Well, the way that I can help you is you can still bring me your trade-in, and I can appraise it for you. And let's say I appraise your trade-in for $20,000. I kind of urge you go to the dealer of your choice if it's going to be a new car dealership. And let's use Toyota. You're going to go to Bob Tyler and buy a brand new Toyota. And let's say they're giving you a good deal on it, and you are happy with the deal that you're getting. And then you toss the keys to them, and they appraise the trade for less than what I appraised it for. You can still trade it in at that dealership, get that tax credit, and I'll buy it right from the dealer. In other words, if I give you $20,000, and let's just say hypothetically they're appraising it for $17,500, well, that's a pretty big difference. And they're going to say, well, you're going to save some taxes. Well, you could have the best of both worlds. You could trade it in there, tell them they've got to give you $20,000, and I'll buy it right from them after you trade it in for $20,000. That way I still get the car, you still get $20,000, and you get the tax credit, because I don't have to pay the taxes. The next person that buys the car for me is going to pay the taxes. So everybody has a win-win situation. So I'm going to give my hats off to Walmart for trying to get into the car business. Good luck with that. Now, another reason to buy a car from an independent dealership like Frontier Motors is on page 58 in June's edition. Consumers Reports said that the median price paid for recent model a used car was $18,000 when you bought it from when you bought it from an independent used car dealership like Frontier Motors, and it was $21,000 when you bought it from a franchise dealer. Now, what does that mean? What they're saying is that the overhead of a franchise dealership is that much more than an independent, that they're charging on an average of $3,000 more. No, I don't want to get all the new car dealerships in Pensacola mad at me. I don't really think that's true in Pensacola. That might be true in New York or San Francisco or Chicago, where to buy a new car dealership is in the tens of millions of dollars. And even though it's more expensive for a franchise dealer here in Pensacola than it is for an independent, it's not that much different. But on the average, I would say that you can cut that in half. So instead of saving $3,000, according to Consumers Reports, I think I can save you somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 on the same like model car. Now, if I am not less expensive than the dealership that you're doing business with, the new car dealership, a lot of times what happens is I've got a lot lower miles, or I've got way more equipment, or the car that I'm selling is a year or two newer for the same price, or the most important thing that nobody ever mentions these days is condition. And the auctions list their condition reports from 0 to 5. Don't ask me why it's not from 1 to 10, but their condition reports at the auction is from 0 to 5. If the vehicle is not rated at least a 4 or newer or better, I don't even mess with them. A lot of dealerships buy cars that are rated a 2 or a 3 on purpose because they can buy them cheaper, because in their mind they think price is everything. And well, I don't. I think I can normally get a customer to buy my vehicle, not charge more for it, because it's in better condition. There's no dings, there's no scratches, it's a non-smoker, it hasn't been in an accident. There's not 5 owners. It doesn't have rust on it. The tires on the inside aren't all worn out. And these are things that make a difference, that if we are competitive in the pricing, which I do every time I buy a car, I go right to my program called Price Driver, and I double check to make sure the car that I have for sale is less money or a nicer car than the competition. I'm doing my Price Driver on the Jaguar right now. I told you I've got this Jaguar that somebody lost $23,000 on. Well, when I plug in 150 miles, there's not one available. I'm going to go out 500 miles, and let's see what Jaguars are available. And here's one that here's a white one, just like the one I have on it. It has 26,000 miles on it. Actually, here's one with 10 miles on it. It's $92,000 at Baker Motor Company, 450 miles away. Here's one with 900 miles on it, less miles than ours. It's $85,000. Here's one with 1,000 miles on it. It's at Land Rover Porsche of Greenville. It's $84,000. Here's one with 2,000 miles. Here's a close one. Here's a Mercedes-Benz has one with 2,000 miles on it. It's $73,000. So that's the closest one that I can see that's priced to ours at $70,000 with 2,000 miles on it. And that's why when I buy a car, I can do this research and be confident that I can sell the car at a profit but still beat the competition. And that's all that most people worry about. And don't forget that at Frontier Motors, one of the things that makes us different is we don't ask stupid questions. Forget about all the stuff they throw at you. Even forget about your trade-in value. And the reason I'm saying that is because if my bottom line, including taxes, title, tag, everything, all the garbage fees, is $25,000, and the new car dealer is $30,000, you just have to make a simple decision. Should I buy a car with 2,000 miles on it and save $5,000, or should I pay $5,000 more and buy a brand new one? Some people for $5,000, I would say more than some people, would probably buy the car with 2,000 miles on it, as long as there was no issues with the car. People always ask me, sometimes they're skeptical and saying, Ivan, why would I buy a car with 2,000 miles on it? How do I know there's nothing wrong with it? Well, I do all the research. I've been in the car business since I was 15 years old. That makes it 45 years. That's a long time. And I've made a lot of mistakes. I only make every mistake once, which means I made them pretty much all already. So I'm very careful when I buy a car that I'm not going to buy a lemon and hand it off to you, that I'm not going to buy a car that's been in a wreck and has been salvaged and sell it to you. I'm not going to buy a flood car and sell it to you. I'm not going to buy a problem car that might have an odometer problem and sell it to you. And if I ever do, by mistake, and we find out about it, we'll just give you your money back. That's a guarantee that if I ever sell what they call a gray market vehicle, and the reason I'm bringing this out because people are skeptical. They're worried.
Yeah, of course they are.
Sometimes, Don, I've got this Toyota truck on the lot with 200 miles on it. The first question someone might have is, what happened? Why would somebody get rid of a 200-mile vehicle?
The universal question.
Yeah. Well, number one, you can't have a lemon with 200 miles. You got to drive the car before it becomes a lemon. And sometimes what happens, Don, and I'm not saying this is on the Toyota because I don't have the title in front of me where I can do the research, but sometimes what happens is a lot of times they're rental cars where a rental company might buy 10,000 cars but not use them all in their specific areas that they ship them to. So the car sits for a certain period of time and then the vehicle gets sold at the auction. Sometimes it's
it, like any other car, is depreciating.
It's depreciating, so I buy it as it's a new car. But of course, because I'm not a franchise dealership, I have to sell it as an independent dealership. I have to mark the box used, even though in the state of Florida, I can actually sell a car on an MSO, which is the certificate of origin, which means that it hasn't been titled yet. But I still have to sell it as a used car, and the warranty clock is ticking on it. So if I buy a car and it's 2 months old, you're going to lose 2 months of warranty. So if it comes like a Toyota comes with a 36-month warranty, when I sell that 2-month-old car, you only get a 34-month warranty. But if I'm saving you $5,000, who cares? And who cares anyways? It's a Toyota. They don't break. That's why you buy a Toyota. They're supposed to be the best vehicle on the face of the earth, according to the Toyota sales.
Oh, yes, of course.
I'm not saying according to Consumer Reports. Matter of fact, on that note, when we talk about Consumer Reports, Toyota on Consumer Reports is number 8, based on which is the best brand to buy. Which is very interesting.
Reliability mainly, or is there a
no reliability? They're number 2. Reliability. Lexus number 1, Toyota's number 2.
Different factors going.
Yeah, this is which brands make the best cars, and they create a report card where they aggregate the road test performance, so how it drives, reliability, which you mentioned on, safety performance, how does it actually act when you jam on the brakes hard, the performance, and how does it act in a rollover? That's a very important factor. Safety active aids. In other words, what kind of aids come with the car? The more come with the car, the higher the score. So if it's got cross traffic alert, a rear backup camera, blind spot, anti-lock brakes, all these things are aids. And also one thing that they don't put enough emphasis on is owner satisfaction. How did the owner think about the car? Would they buy it again? And if that was no, even though it might have been a Toyota, which has got great reliability, if the owner satisfaction was down here, well, it got a bad rating. So when we talked about Toyota, for example, Toyota was rated number 8. Not that bad, but not that good. Number 1 was Audi. We had Dr. Neil on the show, and he had mentioned to me that his mechanic told him not to buy an Audi because he's got experience with that, but it's from years ago.
Right.
Audi right now is the number 1 make to buy, according to Consumer Report. That includes reliability. That includes how it drives, includes owner satisfaction. And folks, owner satisfaction is very important because if you have a car that you buy brand new and spend $70,000 on, and the car keeps breaking down, you're not going to give it the thumbs up. You're going to give it the thumbs down.
Oh, sure.
Well, they're saying Audi's number 1. Subaru's number 2. Lexus is number 3. Porsche's number 4. BMW, the reason Porsche is so high, and their reliability is average, but it did really good on the safety and on the performance tests, obviously. I mean, they're a performance car. Where Subaru did really good with customer satisfaction, did really good with reliability, didn't do as good on the road tests, but everything else was really good. And the sleeper of the crowd is Mazda, is number 6. Mazda beat out Toyota and Honda to be number 6 on the best rated cars, best brands of cars to buy. And Buick was the only one that made the top 7. And Buick also is the only one that has every single make that they sell, or model, I should say, has a 5-star crash rating according to Consumers Report. So Buick is a great car to buy. I had these customers coming in and say, I want to buy a Honda or Toyota or Nissan. They're still thinking years ago the imports were so much better. Well, not anymore, folks. You can actually buy a Buick and get a vehicle. You can buy thousands of dollars less than a Honda or Toyota or a Nissan and get a car that is as nice, actually even nicer, according to Consumers Reports. I had a customer that came in and drove a Buick. They were going to buy a Honda CR-V or they were going to buy a Toyota RAV4. I had them drive a Buick Encore, which is the small SUV that Buick has. They came back and they were astounded. They said, holy mackerel, how nice that car drives, how quiet it is, how great the way it handles, and the price was thousands of dollars less. So, folks, I'm just saying, if you're going to buy a brand new one, Vince Wibbs is right up the road from us, from Frontier Motors. If you're going to buy one, the Encore I'm talking about has about 1,000 miles on it. So we'd be more than happy to help you figure out if you buy a brand new one at Vince Wibbs or if I can save you enough money on mine to make it worth your while. Okay, we're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, so I want to rattle through some of the things that we can help you with if you're in the car market. Number one, we talked about free Carfax reports. Give us the ID number. I'll email it to you, fax it, or you can pick it up. Free auto check reports, second largest provider of history reports. We can give you a value on your car. If you're going to trade it in somewhere, we can tell you what the car is worth. We can also tell you what we'll just write you a check for. So if you've got a car that you're not using, we are in the market of buying cars from private individuals. I'd rather buy a car from you than buy one at the auction because I don't know who had it at the auction. I know I can guarantee it, but I still can't talk to the private individual that actually drove the car. So I definitely would like to buy your car from you, especially if you're downsizing from a 3-car family down to a 2 or 2 to 1, or maybe you're getting a company car. Check us out on Facebook. You can also check us out on YouTube. Just Google Frontier Motors on YouTube. You're going to see this show. I don't know why you'd want to watch it, but you can get it for free on YouTube. We're going to be also running this particular show about 15 times on Blab TV, so hopefully you'll check us out there. And if you know anybody that's looking, again, in the market for a new or used car, we also give diminished value reports. If somebody broadsides your car, you are going to get some extra money from your insurance company because the value of the car just now went down. I will tell you how much that's going to be. That's called diminished value. If your car gets totaled, unfortunately, I can tell you what you should be getting from the insurance company to make sure that they're being fair with you. These are all things that we provide at Frontier Motors, but the biggest thing that we provide for Frontier Motors for the people in the Pensacola area is free advice when it comes to making a car purchasing decision, whether that be brand new or whether that be used, and that's what we've been doing for 20 years. It's not all about selling you a car. It's about letting you know that I can help you when you're ready and in the car market. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay. Come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier. We got the right price. Frontier. We'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors. Low overhead country.